That tech demo of The Witcher 4 looked pretty amazing. So much that a lot of people have doubted whether it's actually going to live up to any expectations. And I've had a good look at the tech demo, and while I'm not a big developer and wouldn't know the complete inner workings, I do understand enough to look at what you should be looking at. And now, of course, one thing I do want to stress out before I get into the nitty-gritty of this video, it was a tech demo. It was a tech demo not for The Witcher, but for Unreal Engine 5, which means this wasn't directed at gamers, it was directed at developers. Now, what does that mean? This was not to show what the game is going to be about. It was not to show what the game world was going to be like. This was to show what is possible with Unreal Engine 5, which brings me to one of the biggest questions, critique points that I've seen online, which is people thinking that there is no way that this is running on a regular PS5. And what I've been saying and what I've seen quite a lot of people say is, especially surrounding the release of the PS5 Pro, is that there's never really been much use for it because a lot of games do not really get the most out of the hardware that we have right now, especially when looking at the PS5 and the Series X. The Series S is struggling with a few things, unfortunately, but that's a whole different video and a whole different debate. Um, but yeah, actually showing off this engine on a regular PS5 was absolutely the right way to go because it shows that it can finally get the most out of the hardware that, quite honestly, we just haven't seen this generation. So, if I think this is absolutely possible on a regular PS5, yeah, it absolutely is. 60 frames at this level of shading, especially with ray tracing, is absolutely possible. Just no engine so far has been able to get that out of the hardware. And it seems like Unreal Engine 5 finally can. Um, Now you might think, why did it took so long? I have no idea. I honestly don't, but it's been one of the reasons why I have found a mid-gen upgrade in the PS5 Pro really pointless. Because again, almost no game has been able to fully reach the potential that the PS5 and the Series X have. So mid-gen redo was completely unnecessary, and Unreal Engine kind of proved that with the tech demo. Now, as far as how sincere this is going to be when it comes to The Witcher 4, there are definitely a few caveats. Because yes, this tech demo was to show what you can do in an open world. It was to show how you can do world building. But ultimately what we saw was basically one long tunnel. After the first cutscene, you had Ciri move to a horse. Kind of get the name. I'll get the hang of it when I'll actually play it, but she moved towards a horse. It was just a straight path. Not completely straight, but there weren't any off branches that she could take. It was just a straight road ahead up until the town where she walked in one street all the way up until the end, and then we kind of moved into a little bit of CGI cutscenery. Um, Everything seemed built in engine, and that looked amazing. But you're gonna have to wonder if indeed a Witcher 4 on a grand scale can look this amazing. Um, I think with ray tracing, it's definitely possible that it's gonna look this sharp, and especially at 60 frames, I think it's gonna run pretty smooth. What you might wonder is how vivid and live the world is truly going to be, because we saw what's possible in a small, controlled environment. And I think that's the biggest thing that you're gonna have to realize. I do believe that everything they show is absolutely an engine. They coded it this way so it can happen. But with this, if you're gonna scale it to a grander scheme, you might wonder how things are going to change. Especially if you don't want to have NPCs on an infinite loop, things like that bit on the market stall, you're probably not really gonna see in game with a salesperson talking to a customer, then grabbing a fish and giving it to a colleague. Either that's gonna be very scripted, or it's probably not gonna happen because even if you could coded in a way that it's possible to have that work vibrantly. That's really, I don't really want to say a pointless endeavor, but it kind of is, as just a bit of ambiance. You don't need that. So I don't see developers spending too much time on making that happen. But again, this was not to showcase what the game is going to be like, it was to showcase what developers can do with Unreal Engine 5. And it showed that it can easily hand off items, and items are going to drop into the wooden case that was in front of him while he's talking to an NPC, and he was able to give the item to the other NPC. That is what developers need to know, because you can use that in cutscene creating, and you can use that in creating very small ambient background. But in a big open world, I don't see this happening too often, simply because it's a waste of resources and a waste of time to create that. You don't really need those amount of details because 90% of players aren't even going to notice that. So again, you need to make sure that what you saw is not aimed at gamers. It is aimed at developers. And sure, they used The Witcher to get hype behind it. Absolutely, it was a great way to showcase how The Witcher is going to look. And I do 100% believe that the game is going to be able to look like it did in the tech demo on a regular PS5, also on a Series X, and perhaps even better on the PS5 Pro. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. What we saw for The Witcher was the graphics, and what we saw for the game, it's probably not going to be as vibrant as we saw because it's going to be a lot of resources that's going to need to be put into it to make it work on a grand scale. Because, like I said, what we saw was a very controlled environment. It was basically one tunnel with some scenery on the side, and that was quite easy for them to control, especially for just a video of, I think it was like 12 and a half minutes. So, do not get your hopes up. Do not think that this entire world is going to be as vibrant as you just saw. I think that is going to be very unrealistic. However, when it comes to the graphics, I see a lot of people cast their doubts on it. I do not think that's necessary. I think the game is going to look absolutely amazing because an engine is so important in how a game is going to look. And Unreal has always been the engine that's really pushing forward game development. And I definitely do expect the same with Unreal Engine 5. So with all that being said, uh yeah, be hyped for Witcher 4. Just don't don't put your own promises in your head that hasn't really been made by the developers when it comes to the game. Especially since, like I said, yeah, they're showcasing what this engine can do and they're showcasing it with The Witcher, but this was never truly meant for gamers. This was meant for developers. So these aren't really promises at us. These are promises at their colleagues, and they're gonna have to interpret in their own ways what they can do with Unreal Engine 5. And all we just really have to do is enjoy the games that are going to be created through that. Um, how deep and detailed those are going to be, that kind of depends on how much a developer is willing to spend in it. Just don't expect a developer to be willing to put hours upon hours upon hours on creating just a little bit of ambiance when that could have gone through world building, quest building, and other gameplay mechanics that are far more important than just a market stall exchange. So, with that being said, I do hope everyone is hyped for The Witcher. I've really enjoyed The Witcher 3. I've also enjoyed The Witcher 2. I think I can say I'm kind of a Witcher fan at this point. Definitely got enough merch for it. But yeah, I'm absolutely stoked for The Witcher 4. I think the game is going to look absolutely amazing. It's probably going to be the one game that I am going to pre-order over the next year or two. Um, so yeah, I'm super stoked, and I hope you are too.